Hello there. How are you doing? Hope you're all doing great. Welcome to an episode of My English Podcasts. My name is Parham, and we are going to learn English from any single material that is relatable to English, like films, actors, of course their speeches, books, quotes, and so on. And hopefully they could help you with English. So without further ado, let's dive into this episode. So, in this episode, I'm gonna be talking about teenagers' issues. We're all aware of the challenges, hassles, and crises that children, especially teenagers, are grappling with. So, what exactly a lot of us want to know is when exactly children are ready to take right decisions for themselves. And also, we're going to see if parents necessarily have to encourage their children to get off on the right foot all the time. So, initially, let me tell you something. When it comes to children, when they're just very little, they're always processing every single thing they observe in society, especially when it comes to their parents, because they spend plenty of time with their parents when they're at home, when they're sleeping. I don't want to say when they're sleeping, when they're at home, when you're just lying down on the bed or on the sofa. Even when you're in the theater, you're expressing your emotions and stuff like that. So they're always recording whatever people surrounding them are doing. So afterwards, when they kind of come face to face the similar situation, they kind of know how to react. They know how to resolve the problem. So that's one point. Another thing which I believe is highly overlooked is the parenting style and kind of children's upbringing. So we know that in some families, children are under a lot of pressure that they can't kind of try out different things to just be aware of their passions, interests, likes and dislikes. On the other hand, we've got families in which children have much more freedom than the rest of children in the society. That's why that they're always going out, hanging around with different people, understanding different people's mindsets when it comes to different controversial issues. So we consider kind of their values is formed when they're outdoors. So in some families we've got limitations. However, in the rest, children have much more freedom. So I don't want to say that parents need to be lenient. What I'm trying to say is that they have to look look out for their children and also try to just to let them try out various stuff in order to just be aware of their personality, because the more confined children are, the less likely they are to just fully understand what kind of person they are. So in the end, when they're supposed to be independently living, even far from their family, especially when they fly the nest, they actually would face such serious problems that even would make them give up, quit whatever they're doing. So that's one problem. Although in some families, as I told you, when children get to talk to different people, carry out different stuff, the different things, they kind of, gain experience, and afterwards, when they're old enough to find a perfect job for themselves, they can ensure that if the kind of job suits them or not, But when it comes to those, when it comes to the rest, they might know what they want to do, but they doubt it. And the more they doubt, the more they hesitate. And afterwards, we can see that, doubt takes over, the decision they want to make, or it kind of it clouds their judgment, so they can't come up with the right decision. And they goof around, or they screw up all of a sudden. And it might be sort of hard to compensate. It doesn't matter how strong you are, as long as you don't know yourself well, you can't do something special to just resolve the problem. You know what I mean? Because it is all about self-awareness. If you know who you are, if you are aware of your likes, dislikes, your strengths and weaknesses, you're ready to go. You're all good. That's one point. Following that, it would be all about taking risks. Because there are a lot of big decisions ahead of those children that we're talking about. It doesn't matter how old you are, if you're a boy, if you're a girl, you undoubtedly face a lot of crisis as you go ahead in life. When you get away from your parents, from your hometown, not only would you face culture shock, but also you may not be able to get your message across, especially when it comes to foreign countries. So these are just very serious challenges. So as long as you don't know your passions, your likes and dislikes, and it would be added to those challenges, and it would terribly open a can of worms. A problematic situation would be brought about afterwards, so they can't sort of handle it. So it is important that we know how to get off on the right foot beforehand. Before flying the nest. Because when you're with your parents, you're kind of financially supported. But I believe that, the longer you live with your parents, the more dependent you become on them, precisely. But if you try to just go out, try to push the boundaries, expand your horizons, you yourself become more inclined to live independently. You kind of know how to cheer yourself on, trying harder to pursue your best work, to work towards your goals, and eventually you can do whatever you want, because there is nothing you cannot achieve. You know yourself well, you take risks, you're not afraid of that, and you kind of know how to take over your feelings, how to control your activities, so you're all good to go. The thing that is known as the problem is that fewer people are being risk takers. Some people are actually used to the routine, and even when it comes to just trying out different challenging situations, or they put their foot back. They kind of refuse to accept, because they're kind of used to following a kind of routine, and they don't want to just stay out of their comfort zone. Because what I believe in is that we're not living in this world to stay inside of our comfort zone, because it is kind of like a limited stuff. It's like in a very small area, and there's kind of like a boundary around your comfort zone, and it is not a very large kind of like thing to live in. If you want to just stay inside of your comfort zone, I'm talking about teenagers, you would feel that you're always limited, You limit yourself to just very few things. You easily get bored. You easily get discouraged by the environment, or let's say environmental issues, people, what you hear from them, whatever. But if you push the boundaries, if you go beyond that boundary, things dramatically change. And you're like a different person. Sometimes we see that all of a sudden you get off on the wrong foot. You do something wrong, you start doing something wrong. But as long as you know yourself, you try to just compensate as soon as possible. So it's like nothing had happened. When you're aware of your strengths and weaknesses, it would help you when you're in hot water. In fact, what I'm trying to say is children nowadays want to be much more independent than before. In comparison to the previous generation, because we didn't used to witness the emergence of technology in the world. But nowadays, we're all living in the digital world, and our parents are immigrants of, the previous generation to this kind of digital world. But we teenagers are the natives of this kind of digital world. So the more accessible this kind of technology, the easier you can just try to push the boundaries and leave in a more exciting way. Because if you do that, you're kind of like, it would be an extraordinarily exhilarating journey, all around the world, trying different things. And, it's all about exploring the world. You get to know people, you can broaden your mind, and it can also boost your knowledge. But if you just try to just fit in this kind of like your comfort zone, you can't actually you can't be a kind of successful person. That's the point. So let me know what kind of environment you've grown up in, and let me know if you kind of have tried to push the boundaries and kind of go beyond that comfort zone to just risk it.